Cable news media, cable legacy media is dead. It's through. It's finished. It is beyond finished. It is, and I've used this analogy before to the point of exhaustion. It is like that star that has burned out millions of years ago, but the light hasn't hit you yet. So consequently, you think you see it, you think it's there because you see this light, but the star's not there anymore. It's gone millions of years ago. This long to hit you. People are still looking at legacy media, and because it is literally on, they say it is still alive. And they oft themselves. Can't use that word because algorithms cannot determine nuance. They can't understand reasons or phraseology or expression. They can't. So we have to speak in ridiculous lunacy. That's why on my private channel, I can say whatever the hell I want. I don't have to worry about it because anybody listening knows I am not a practitioner of self-annihilation. It's over. This morning I happened to be, it was early. I think it was like 4 a.m. Happened to see, I wonder what's going on in terms of, local news. And I saw something that was just beyond pitiful. It was a kind of a local show of a sort of a friend, 4 a.m. doing this bad news and weather and this. What is the purpose? Maybe just to sell advertising. You figure, look, I got nothing to do, so let's sell some spots. Let's put on this thing. And I'm thinking, the star has burned out. Do you not see what's happening? Why are people not recognizing this? Yesterday, we heard that Neil Cavuto was finally leaving. He was the most anti-Trump, anti-Republican, anti-everything. I understood people who could have their feelings about COVID, and especially when people didn't know what would happen at the time. But this guy was so militant against anybody who dared to say anything contrary to the usual story. Thank you, Victoria Bentley. Thank you for being a new member. We appreciate you. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. It's over. It's dead. And it finally, the final nail in the coffin, excuse me, algorithm, I meant it as an expression. This is an expression, was when they actually went and tried to lift up this demented retardate who dared to seize control of our country. Basically, it was to seize control and hand it over to her overlords and ghouls. And now we're learning, last night, for reasons we don't know, Biden arrived at the White House after canceling his Delaware holiday stay. Kamala also returned to the White House under an emergency. Still no confirmation on why Biden and Harris returned. What do you think that means? This is very interesting. Why? There are rumors that they are planning on invoking the 25th Amendment just to make Kamala president for 30 days. Are the Democrats planning on Kamala giving Joe a pardon for his entire political career? Is that it? So, I mean, do they think that? Remember, when you ask these questions, you have to ask, not does it make sense, but is it possible? We will return to these important and critical messages, dear friends, but listen to me carefully to this important and incredibly necessary message. Listen to this.
New reports reveal that the average person has $8,674 in credit card debt. Plus, the total average consumer debt is a shocking $104,215 between mortgages, auto loans, student loans, credit cards, and unsecured loans. Unfortunately, without outside assistance, many will continue digging themselves deeper and deeper into the hole of debt. I've advised and counseled friends and clients for years who want to take back control of individual debt about this secret weapon that has helped so many consolidate everything owed into one affordable monthly payment. They even helped negotiate a settlement agreement that will allow you to pay less than the total balance. Listen, they settled over $275 million in debt, and they've helped people become debt-free in an average of 28 months. I've had such an incredible experience referring clients and friends that I wanted to partner with them here and introduce their services to you, my loyal Lytle Nation family. If you want a helping hand to get out of debt, I absolutely, positively, and strenuously recommend booking a free consultation now by going to nodebtwithlionel.com. Look at the address. Once again, that's nodebtwithlionel.com. Use the link I've provided under the title. Listen to me. You can take control and learn how to get out of debt now.
All right, my friends. Now remember, here's what we got to understand. You cannot use ideas that are rational to you and me and apply them to politics today. Do you think there is any way that they would be so blatant as for Joe to step down? Why? Would he say, I'm not able to do it? Would he? I mean, I know you're going to have to do it. Yes, you can do it. Is he saying, I am mentally incapacitated? I'm not able to do this anymore? Or I'm doing it just so you can pardon me? I mean, do you? So you can think about this all day long. This is the most important thing in the world. But it's over. It is absolutely over. And what we need to understand, and what you have to understand, a lot of people, is that 90% of what we're talking about is really irrelevant. How many of you great people are really hanging on to every word regarding the budget and the CR? What do you think? Anybody? Anybody? Is there anybody who's hanging on to every word of the budget? No, absolutely. And Larry Fisher says he can pardon himself. It's never happened. Why do you think it's ever happened? The Office of Independent Counsel, or the White House, the Justice Department, Office of Judicial Counsel, or whatever Nino Scalia was, they've said, no, you can't do this. Nah. Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about this. The budget is a waste of time. It's one of these things that you're just pretending. It's this artificial makeshift. Shut the government down has been done 21 times in the past, 10, I think, for funding. Shut it down. This is the most important thing in the world. Just shut it down. It doesn't grab us. The real issue, the stuff that we have to be thinking about, is something even better. Let me give you an example. Let me just show you a couple of things here. In no particular order. First, I've got to tell you, just in a lighthearted moment, to show you the next time somebody says Alex Jones is crazy, or this one is crazy, or Trump is crazy, because you know they love that crazy business. Bring up this dame, I think.
And you know what? They got scared because President Musk
What am I thinking? Charlie Callis meets Emo Phillips meets the worst, like imposter, like somebody who's trying to pretend there's, I don't know. What is this?
Told them, President Musk said so.
Let's try it again.
And you know what? They got scared because President Musk told them, President Musk said, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut the government down. Imagine. What does he know about what people go through is when the government shuts down? Are his employees furloughed? Hell no. Is he furloughed? No. And when you shut the government down, people don't get paid. And maybe if none of us got paid if the government shut down, some people on the other side of the aisle would feel differently about where we're going in this effort. We had an agreement. But this is not different from what we've experienced over the last year and a half or so. Think about it. Biden, McCarthy, deal, come together. Next day, walk away. Johnson, Schumer, deal. Next day, walk away. And now this deal, walk away.
Okay, I can't put you through this anymore. This is the Democratic message. Shut it down. Close it. Shut it down, especially when you have State Department funding that basically allows for the complete and total disruption of free speech. I know this sounds difficult. Let me give you something. Let me see if we can watch this. And this may take a little bit of time. But I know you have a little bit of time, and I know you want to learn. You understand this? Do me a favor. Now listen to this. Watch this fellow and listen to the absolute sagacity of this person. And you would not see this gentleman on conventional cable TV because, well, he doesn't look the part. Listen to his words.
To pass a budget bill, and it looks like we might be heading for a government shutdown. And in large part, this is due to the influence of Elon Musk. Now, depending on how you feel about Elon, you might view this as a positive or a negative thing. And in this video, I'm going to give you comprehensive context on what exactly is going on. And I'm also going to offer you my perspective on the influence of Elon, billionaires more generally, and the legislative process. First, here are the facts. Every year, Congress has from about February until October 1st to pass a bill for the following year. So this year in 2024, they were forming the budget for 2025. However, if they miss that October 1st deadline, then they form what's called a CR bill or continuing resolution bill. That bill is meant to be a temporary measure that maintains the prior year's levels of funding in order to prevent a government shutdown. And they need to pass that bill before December 20th, when all the Congress people go home for Christmas, in order to ensure that the government doesn't shut down. Now, the concept of a government shutdown sounds bad, but it's pretty common. There have been 21 government shutdowns in the last 50 years. And even during a government shutdown, essential services are still maintained, like the operation of our military or Social Security. So in this case, the CR bill typically would have just mimicked 2024 levels of funding for 2025. However, there's several things that make this year unique. First is its length. It's 1,547 pages long, and only 8 of them are actually CR bill. The rest of it is about supplemental funding and legislation. The second thing is that rather than just maintaining 2024 levels of funding, there's actually $100 billion extra allocated to this CR bill. Most of that $100 billion is for disaster relief, and that $100 billion constitutes a 6% increase over 2024's budget. Now, you might not have any issues with that, but what's raising hackles is the fact that most Congress people had less than 24 hours to read the entire 1,500-page bill. Most Congress people were given the bill on December 17th and expected to vote on it less than 24 hours later on December 18th. This is because both Democratic and Republican leadership in the House formed the bill, but that process wasn't transparent to the rest of the Congress people. On top of all that, there were specific provisions in the bill that many people objected to, like, for example, the fact that it gave a pay increase to members of Congress.
Now, pay attention. Now, listen, I know For some folks, this is difficult because you have to listen to what he says. And it's a lot more fun to talk about his hairstyle or to point something out about the scene or his scarf, or if he reminds you of somebody. I understand that. But for the rest of the world intently listening, thank you. Because this is still one of the most cogent explications and expatiations you're ever going to hear. So listen carefully. First is the pay raise.
Now, it's worth noting that the pay increase is relatively modest, around 3%, and it's a cost of living increase. That said, many people objected to the fact that Congresspeople would be giving themselves a pay increase at all, given the state of the country and the fact that many people are struggling to get their bills paid. There's also the fact that the bill would allow Congresspeople to be exempt from Obamacare, even though the average American is not. Or the fact that the bill allocates funding for the Global Engagement Center, which many people have critiqued as a...
Listen to this more than anything. Pay attention. Pay attention. Stop commenting on his looks. Act like an adult. Listen to this. This is the thing you've got to listen to. Listen carefully. Please, children, I beg you.
A propaganda instrument and censorship instrument that has been used against the American people and now is getting even more funding.
Listen. Are you paying attention? Listen to me. Listen to this. Is Neil Cavuto talking about it? Harris, Faulkner, Newsmax, CNN, ABC? No. This is what this Emo Phillips dingbat is missing as well.
Now, I think it's fair to say that under normal circumstances, the vast majority of Americans would not have any idea what a CR bill is, or the fact that it's being passed, or the fact that it's 1,500 pages and Congresspeople are given less than 24 hours to read it. But what's unprecedented about this is that Elon Musk heard about it and started posting a lot about the whole situation on X. Because Elon has such a huge following, that caused many people to get into an uproar. And it caused many people to start pressuring their congresspeople and calling their congresspeople to have the CR bill not passed. And for the record, I called Representative Mike Johnson, who is the leader of the Republicans in the House, to express my personal disapproval for the manner in which the CR bill is being passed. And if you feel the same, I recommend that you take action by calling his office too. What Elon and many people were objecting.
By the way, this Mike Johnson is such a shill. Understand something. Another thing, there is a $10 billion Meta AI data center set for set for Louisiana, all right? And when it comes to anything involving kids, children, COSA, Kids Online Safety Act, anything that Mrs. L has been yelling about and saying for years, this has been all shelved and shuttered by people like Mike Johnson, who is a rat, who needs to be expunged, absolutely expunged, removed, ablated, Bowdlerized, ablated, decapitated from the scene. This is a part of this Bezor logjam that I hate about it. This is the part which just drives me nuts. And the very fact that Elon Musk, for the first time, is causing these people. And by the way, there has been a suggestion of Rand Paul to make Elon speaker. Anything to shake this up, do it.
Is the manner in which the CR bill was being passed, the contents of the CR bill, and the timeline for the CR bill being passed as well. And the CR bill did have bipartisan support from leadership of the Democrats and the Republican Party. Now, that leadership has argued that this is a bipartisan bill, and the $100 billion extra is needed for disaster relief that the American people have wanted for months. But I would argue, if that's the case, pass disaster relief as a separate bill, rather than making it part of a 1,500-page behemoth that none of you are even actually reading. And regardless, this is just a fundamentally broken process.
Oh, but we know all about this. This isn't our first rodeo. We know all about this. We've been through these CRs. No, you haven't.
We have politicians using money that is not theirs to give themselves pay raises and paying for things that they haven't even read using our money on things that we can't afford. Now, some people have objected to Elon Musk's influence, particularly Democrats, and to that I'd respond with three things. One, on the partisan angle, there's actually a 2-to-1 ratio of Democratic donors to Republican donors who are billionaires. In fact, in the 2024 election, the Kamala campaign had $1 billion that they spent, whereas the Trump campaign had $400 million. But partisans
We knew that. We already knew that. No, you didn't.
aside, Elon is actually quite unique in that we can actually see the influence that he's having in large part. Because in this particular case, his influence was simply using his voice and amplifying it to his large audience.
Yes.
And in reality, it was not just Elon saying that he opposes this, it was the people agreeing that they also oppose the CR process as well. Now, I think it's reasonable to be skeptical of anyone's influence, billionaire or not. And
Okay.
Elon certainly has a lot of influence, and some of it we can't see and is not transparent. But in this particular case, we can see exactly what he was standing for.
Okay, I want you to go, and you can see this. You can see this as well. This is the essence of this. Not this notion of, let's see the number of pages. Well, they want a pay raise. This is about a system which, for the first time, and this is just the beginning, the first time is going to be shaken and shaked and shook to the core. It's the most important and critical thing ever. And that's why if you really want to get into it, you're not going to learn this, or you're going to learn, in essence, specifically what mainstream media news want you to understand. Let me give you a couple of other things, just as an example. Mainstream media news never, ever seems to to change lanes. They have this style. I'm just going to go this way. Imagine you being able to see in the course of your life the end of something. Most of us remember, I guess, disco. I don't think anybody remembers vaudeville. Actually, I haven't lived there, but we knew there was vaudeville. We knew there was, grunge and this other kind of stuff. Okay. It's not that it went away, but but we don't know when it goes. We don't see the end. We don't say today is the end of disco. We can kind of anticipate, guess it was at the Chicago thing. Who knows? But what you're doing and seeing it right now is the end of it. Somebody, you had one particular news organization all of a sudden float an IPO. Why? To raise money for the lawsuits that were coming. For the perhaps billions. Who knows? It's dead. It's still a guy at a table. It's still, Fox News is still putting on Lindsey Graham. Newt Gingrich. I mean, what do I have to do? What? We are beyond that. Have you ever heard any of these people ever say anything about Bill Gates? Listen to this one. And by the way, if you want to hear this, all of this is available on X. Listen to this one.
Is he really a philanthropist?
Bill Gates is not a philanthropist. He gives a little bit of money to take over entire sectors. The big seed banks are called the CJR system. He gives $1 million here, but he takes all the seeds of that system. All of these seed banks of the world he now controls by giving a tiny bit. But that's not where he stops. He then promotes technologies for patenting. So he controls the seeds of the world. He finances the Svalbard seed bank. Then he creates patent systems. And he destroys the international system that controls the country's rights to their seed so that all the seeds of the world are his seeds. He cooked up a word which I had never heard before that called net zero. And he said we have to solve climate problems by net zero. It doesn't mean we get rid of emissions. He flies in a private jet and has all the private jet services of the world. He says it doesn't mean we'll stop polluting. He says it just means we have to find other people's lands.
Now, I'm trying, I guess my theme is, we're going to have this Trump thing, which is one of us, going to have this inauguration. Yeah. But this has to be the beginning of a revolution. And the first thing we have to do is to disabuse ourselves and denude ourselves with the idea that we know what the hell we're talking about. We have been, all of us, in this kind of a stupor. We have been locked in a prison for most of our lives. And fairly recently are we getting news from the outside world. You don't realize this, but we don't. And in some respects, social media have provided absolute, just this incredible sense of, I don't know what it is, this wonderful break from reality, break from this torpor, this structured prison that we live in. But it's duped us into thinking that we know everything, and we don't. And what it's done is provided this, it's become a plaything for people. I never knew this. I never saw this coming. How this has become a plaything. It's a toy. It's an echo chamber. It's like giving a spray paint and empty billboards to crazy drunk people to spew bilge. There's no way to stop it. I don't want to stop it because that would be censorship, and even that has a valid basis for existing. I don't know, but we're missing the point. Mainstream media are dead. New platforms are important, but also I'm starting to see it. Let me ask you a question. Do you see a little bit of a kind of a, how do I say this? That we're stuck in the mud, so to speak. Raul Rodriguez, at 200 words per minute, I would read the CR bill in 150 hours. Very good. Did not know that. Something is happening a lot of times to our platforms, and I want to say this to you. And I've seen this happen. Let me tell you what happens. 99% of all, and I say this carefully, all news platforms and the like are guest driven, meaning the host can't do the show by himself. Couldn't know it, couldn't do it. Has to have a guest host or guests or a bunch of people. And we sort of get the same people. Perfect example. There were a couple of genres that came out, which were very interesting. One was, believe it or not, the professional wrestling world. Shoot videos. Phenomenal. People forget how that works. There was a while back where reality shows started, and people forget this, started, one of the first ones ever was Growing Up Gotti, about Victoria Gotti and her sons. People forget about this. I think before there was something on MTV or something, House or whatever. But that was critical. And the next thing you know, they took off. Next was shoot wrestling stories. Professional wrestlers who broke kayfabe and came forward and said, this was it, Crockett did this, Vince did this. Haku was the toughest guy, or Harley Race. And they almost never ran out of stories because there were just so many people and there were so many wrestlers. And so you'll never be able to literally work all the permutations. But it provided a new insight into this world, which, believe it or not, was kind of hidden. I think that may be hitting its critical mass because we're doing the same stories all over again. Who was the toughest guy? Cool, you're a barbarian? It's the same stuff. I know Andre the Giant farted on people. I know. And we just say these things. Okay. The next genre, very interesting, was Sammy the Bull Gravano. Came out and said, our thing, my thing. At the same time, Michael Franzese came out. This fellow named Hootie, who's very smart, knows more than others who weren't as good and others, just whatever it is. And they're hitting critical mass because they're saying the same stories. You're a rat. He's a rat. Okay. Everything settles. It's just like in the 80s, maybe, when comedy started. Evening at the Improv, laugh track. Remember, everybody had a comedy store. Yuck yucks, ha-has, hee-hees, hoo-hoos. There was this proliferation of comedy. Somebody standing in front of a brick wall with the same thing. We were just inundated, and it destroyed everything. People were so bereft of comedy because there was this oversaturation of everything. And we kind of lost our way, and people didn't know what happened. And now, one of the reasons why comedy is so bad today is because of this period. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, and this can only be done through self-direction. I don't want the government or anybody coming in here. If we're going to use these platforms accurately, we're going to need new people. We need more people like Alex Jones, even a David Icke, even a and anybody who is not usual. I'm telling you that one of the most fascinating guys that I've heard recently is a fellow named Greg Reese. Have you ever seen him on Band Video? If you watch any of this, if you don't find yourself thinking that blew my mind, I never knew that. That's what I want. Not the same old stuff. Patrick Ben-David, bless his heart, but a John Gotti Jr. interview, enough with this. It's done. It's just, Patrick, do me a favor. I'm just curious. Do an hour. Let me just hear you. Just say something. Just forget interviewing somebody and they're going to tell you about this, especially when, you know, and believe me, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. Let's get to some really, still do that. Let's get to something different. Let's get to some weird stuff. Let's get to some stuff that everybody says, yeah. Do that. Because we're getting away from, and I'll call it the Alex Jones stuff, and we're kind of getting, say, tell me what something means, but go a little bit deeper. Does that make any sense? See, because a lot of people don't like to be told things that are not necessarily good news. They don't like this. Let me tell you this, for example. I have told you, when I've talked about prepare with Lionel, I am saying if I had to predict two things. One, January 15th, dock strike. We're still playing around now with the Amazon strike. You're going to be seeing more and more of this. You're seeing everything's getting lined up. The president's coming in at 1 a.m. I don't know what that's about. You've got this, you've got the inauguration coming up. I don't know what that's about. You had the drones, and people missed the point of the drones completely. They just said, oh, this is no, they're setting you up for, they're talking about nuclear, they're talking about radiation, they're talking about this, they're talking about something they are planning. They love to set you up. They love to say, this is what's coming. Remember that? Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that happening. Yeah, they could have stopped this drone thing immediately. So think about this. All of a sudden, something happens. What would it be? It would be the greatest feather in your cap if somebody sitting around the shadow government table said, I've got something for you. What if I interrupted or discontinued or canceled the inauguration? Oh, Trump's still president, but people don't go because of some unnamed threat or whatever it is. You don't think that's possible? Think about how that would set the Trump presidency off. to have the inauguration, the last time you'll ever see a Trump inauguration, hear a Trump speech, to see people from all over, Xi Jinping, other people saying, and the word goes out, people are canceling, and the media will jump on this. That make it sound like it's the most dangerous thing in the world. Don't think that's not possible. I would do it if I was in the shadow government. Then we have all kinds of shipping problems, and then we have strikes, and then we have, name it. That's why people, companies like My Patriot Supply and Prepare with Lionel, people are just rushing towards that because they're seeing this is what's happening. You're not going to hear this unconventional stuff because of the fact their job is not to do anything to disrupt, calm, or to veer from the script they are given. They have a script. That's not their thing. They're not there to tell you the truth or what's important. They're there to tell you the narrative that they've sworn to follow. So right now, when I talk about preparewithlionel.com, with 5 days before Christmas, 5, think about this. The most incredible time in the world. There's a 4-week emergency food supply deal right now that is the best anybody's ever seen. And I'm not going to let this moment go by without mentioning mypillow.com and our good friend, Mike Lindell. Use promo code Lionel. That's all I'm going to say. What they tried to do to this guy absolutely blows my mind. Let me talk to you about something. If you went and explained to somebody the notion, and this is why the beauty of the platform is what I love, what I wish people would do. I love to teach more as opposed to merely, anyway, I want people to think better. If you mention to somebody bread and circuses, what do they know? They kind of know what that is. Distraction, diversion, keeping the public kind of happy and fat and whatever it is. But it's from Juvenal, the Russian, the Roman poet. And listen to this explication.
The purpose of professional sports, it's a psychological anesthesia to lull you into a state of asleepness so that you do not feel the pain of them extracting all of the beauty from your future. That's why it exists. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just going to ask you the question. Does it make sense to be cheering for people who don't know you to win a game that doesn't matter and you can't pay your light bill? You can't educate your children the way you desire to. You can't take a family vacation, but you're jumping up and down because a full-grown man ran over another full-grown man over a pigskin filled with air. It doesn't make sense.
When you tell somebody this, they would say, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? If I told you the number of folks who watch these, I mean, if this is not, you love the word CIA or military psyops, all of these military shows, I was a SEAL, Sean Ryan, I was a killer. Have you seen this new guy? What's his name? I mean, this guy I'm sure he did it, but he sounds like, yeah, I killed these guys. Sure. I killed everything that moved. I had my, taking war and making it kind of cool. If you don't see this, if you don't see as we see the psychological manipulation that comes our way, then you're not a part of where we're going. Let me also tell you, I think, and I get the impression that we're looking at white hats right now. And the white hats have always been defined as groups of people within the shadow government or whatever you want to call it, who are I guess who are the good guys who have for the longest time wanted to get out and do good things. Like the majority of the people in the government, in the Department of Justice, in the FBI, are good people. They really want to do good things. The majority of people in Silicon Valley, you don't remember this one, but there's a great story about how when it first came about, these were these weird kind of idealists who came about, who said, we want to make the world better. They weren't interested in wealth. That was a whole thing of dressing down, and nobody wore a suit, and they just, it was actually, and then of course, big business came in, or that money came in, and that changed everything. But they said, what are we doing? Why are we infiltrating government, citizen, secrecy and privacy, and what are we doing? So there was that group of people. You have other words, and by the way, this Reese does this stuff, which is fantastic. Peter Thiel. This guy. Don't trust anybody. We'll make incremental changes. That's good. But understand, there's a lot of people out there who are not necessarily evil, but they are motivated by money, yes, but power. I will always be able to deal with somebody who is driven by money. I understand that. Somebody who just wants money, somebody who wants power, that scares me more than anything. And those are those folks out there. There's something that's happening right now, which is so important, it's so critical. And the most important thing to realize is that the lifeblood of this information contamination, this lifeblood has been specifically this group of people called, I guess, the shadow government media. They were the public information officers. You look at that CNN, look at that Caitlin, the brow lady. Look at, who was it the other day? I forget, Gloria Borger. All these others are just, they're just shutting this down because it's not working. And they did it to themselves because they became, unbeknownst to them, the messenger or the messenger of shadow government, not deep state, the shadow government, the people who really run the show. And interestingly enough, President Trump is a very big part of the world government, but he's not everything. There's other stuff. His foreign policy so far with the people he has is going to be a disaster, an absolute disaster. He has never been good on that. He has kind of ideas as far as trade goes and good guys and bad guys, but he absolutely, and we love him, but when it comes to what needs to be done with the United States actually working to stop death and carnage and tyranny, no, that's, forget it. Seb Gorka, are you kidding me? And by the way, look at what's happening to Salem. Salem is the radio company, the big conservative. They were Christian and then they went conservative. Look what's happening to them. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Wait until you see what happens to regular. I mean, this is the most important thing. Wait till you see what happens to regular, conventional, terrestrial AM radio. It's just, oh my God. And talk. WOR just basically blew out the morning show. Let me also tell you something about this. And I'm going to go back because I think people always have this. Years ago, there was the disc jockey and the person talking. It was the guy who spoke to you. And then there was the puker, the guy with the voice. And there's a fellow on a serious show it almost is comical, but it's the last time you'll ever, because you don't really hear that anymore. Okay, so in the old days on radio, it was one guy speaking to you. That was it. One guy speaking to you. That's it. Great. Then what happened was years later, a guy and people, one of the purveyors of this, and I blame him for this. He's a good guy, but I blame him for this monstrosity. It was the Zoo, Scott Shannon and the Zoo, the Q Morning Zoo. And it was later the Z100 in the Zoo. And then you got the PLJ in the Zoo. And you got the Zoo. And the theory is that if you put enough people in the room, somebody's bound to say something funny. And you make it sound like over laughing. And And it was always great to walk by anybody doing morning zoo format, because outside, listening on the overhead speaker in the station, you hear this frivolity and laughter and this ribaldry, and everything's funny. And then you see them and they walk out and they're glum because it's an act. And there's nothing worse than to have a forced zoo, to have the funny weather girl who's got a funny laugh, or they'll pick on her because she can't get a date. And then there's the roly-poly weather guy or the traffic guy. And then and then you kind of, it becomes a mess. And you hope to God, you got so many moving parts, you hope to God it works. It's like you have a watch that works, you start taking out, pieces, putting it back in, it stops. So anyway, then we get into, and you'll see it right now, you'll see it sometimes with platforms like this, because it's so much easier. It's easier to have a lot of people there. That's something that we have to get away from. There's one thing I really loved. There's one thing that I again, I can't say enough. I think the paterfamilias of this whole thing was Alex Jones. He started everything. He was it. He was the gold standard. And it was him and you and me, and that was it. And I loved it. And it was just about the news. And he always showed you, this is the story. This is where I got the story. This is where I got it from. This. I'm not just making this up. It's here. If he says that frogs are gay, he shows you the story. You can laugh, not at me, laugh at the story. He one time was talking years ago about how, I think it was, might be Comcast, might have been something, where people were listening to you on your cable box. And they said, that's the most ridiculous thing anybody's ever heard. Well, jump to the day, it's not true. You see, there's never anybody who comes forward and says, we were right about this, we were right about that. You are in the midst, you are seeing a transformation of one of the most important and critical features of our social life, and that is the TV or cable news agency. It became a part of our life. You go to the airport and see CNN. You come home and put on the TV. You want, what's happening? There was a fire. Let's watch TV. Put it on channel. In fact, the radio used to always give in to TV. TV was, if ever there was something going on, nobody said, quick, turn on the radio. No, it was like TV. We want to see it. And now nobody goes to TV. I saw this morning, I'm sorry, at 4 o'clock in the morning, a weather report, and they're always wrong. So what we're seeing right now is absolutely the greatest thing ever. It is beyond, it is so, and it's happening before your very eyes now. That's the thing which is critical. You've never seen anything where all of a sudden there is the end of disco, the end of whatever it is, and this is the end. You are about to get ready, buckle up. You're going to see stuff that is going to blow your mind. You're going to also see these people that you thought were dead, you thought were done. Gee, we stopped the Democrats. Oh, Kamala, ha, 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 right? Don't think so at all. There are people who are all going to be granted their pardons and all of that stuff. And Adam Schiff and others are going to be coming back like you can't believe. And I'm also telling you that as we speak, in the California group of Schiff and Newsom and the Gettys and the Pelosi's and the Browns and the Newsoms and all these folks, they're gearing up. We have a lot to look at. I'm so glad Elon's there. And that's another thing. Is he getting too close? I don't care. Is he becoming too buddy-buddy? I don't know. He's scaring the hell out of them. This is so cataclysmic. It's nothing short of exciting. Let me also tell you something. We are stuck with these parties. Stuck. I don't even know where they came from. I don't know what is even the relevance of this thing. I don't know. But we're stuck with parties. We need to have something. We need to have something in our life, something in our world that better decides what it is that we're doing, other than Republican and Democrat. Let me tell you something right now. In the state of New York, we have a dead Republican Party. In the city of New York, it is completely dead. And what it is a bunch of people pretending that they're starlets or socialites. And they just want to sit around and they just want to have parties. We're having this party for the young Republicans and the old Republicans and the social Republicans. And it's a black tie. Oh my God, it's Steve Bannon. And I don't understand what this stuff is. I don't get it. I don't understand. Why is this a star? What is it? And they leave and nothing happens. They raise money. Nobody knows where the money goes. Where does this go? What happens? What? Don't know. What are the plans? I don't know. What about the get out the vote drive? I don't know. What about going in and explaining, having summer camps? You think I'm laughing? Summer camps to explain the rudiments of the Constitution. I don't know. What we've done is we've taken a lot of this and we just sit back and we have convinced ourselves that merely just talking and yammering, that somehow is participatory inclusion. It's not. God bless people who go out there and start their own podcast channels or their own YouTube channels or whatever it is. God bless these people. They're trying to do something. Anybody can do this. This is a part that gets me. Everybody is given free entree to have their own channel, their own whatever it is. All they have to do is get involved in it. That's it. But that won't even get their attention. Well, because we have this, again, I keep seeing torpor, this torpid, otiose, ossified, concretized. We don't really want to get involved. We're interested in just, we're like the drunk who's had too much to drink, which I guess is redundant, and he sits in his chair and he's watching something. He goes, that's most of our thing. And we're not going to. I don't even want to know the number of people who actually don't vote. This time with Trump, the voting was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. But the things that we've got to really worry about right now, and we're getting there, involved in understanding and a kind of a sentience that I don't think a lot of people are grasping. We're in the middle of a news revolution. Now, there's another thing, too. I saw something which was fascinating. And it goes in line with the White Hats. Did you notice how when our friend, Mr. Testa de Mingue, this Luigi Testa de Cazzo, whatever his name was, he all of a sudden, he was extradited back. And kind of out of nowhere, there were these federal charges. These federal charges that throw on this firearm with murder, giving him potentially the death penalty or life. And Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, who hit him with terrorism or something, he's going to have his case taken from him because the DOJ, the new DOJ, is saying, in effect, we don't want you near this. There's a new sheriff in town. This is the greatest news possible. This goes back to what I was saying about the White House. There is right now, I read, more deportations in 2024 than in the past, 10 years. There are people wanting to do this. They're going after TDA, Tren de Aragua. They're going after these folks like mad. And the left, the radical left, is going berserk. They don't know what to do. They're throwing. Did you happen to see the weight czar, the San Francisco weight czar? They did this, I think, almost as a joke. It's this obese woman who was talking to you about when you worry about the size of your cake, I guess you're trying to say be okay with your weight or something like that. It is the most bizarre nonsense. Why? Because they're doubling down. This is the not left, but the lunatic left hanging on for some degree of relevance. Crypto Domini says America don't operate out the Constitution. It is perverse from executive orders and acts from before the Civil War on. Where is America going? Anything with Trump as we speak? Anyone, anywhere? Well, it's funny you say that. There has always been a veering away from legislation, executive orders, signing statements. Remember, signing statements really big under George Bush. Remember the unitary executive? There was all this kind of stuff. Some of these things are not prohibited by the Constitution, but they're not provided for the Constitution. We'll see. I want to see a revolution, and this isn't happening fast enough. I want Trump or somebody to always call ahead of time, call the shot, predict what they're going to do, watch what they're doing now, ahead of time. Go ahead and have somebody from the Trump administration, whoever it is, go on and say, why is Joe Biden doesn't go to the White House ever? Why is he flying in at 1 a.m? Are they planning? What is this? Is this a distraction, a diversion, what people like here? Or is this being done to set up himself perhaps for a 25th Amendment, which doesn't really make any sense? Why do you need to fly in? You don't need to fly in. What do you need to actually be there? They want this to be demonstrative. You don't have to go to the White House to do this. You have secured phones and lines. This is meant to say, hey, look what they're doing. Why would they do this? Always make sure that you let them know that you've figured out what exactly you're doing. Now, my friends, as we're speaking, and we talk about intrusion and surveillance, all this other kind of stuff, what is happening regarding the safety and the protection of your computer equipment? Listen.
Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you checked your devices for malware? Malware attacks have increased 643% since 2020, with approximately 10 million personal and corporate devices compromised with data stealing malware in just the last year alone. Additionally, 19.8% of computers face at least one malware attack annually. This emphasizes the critical need for individual users to protect themselves, their devices, and their data. This is why I use today's sponsor, Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro, and I love the peace of mind it gives me. Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro is an award-winning antivirus with real-time protection, malware removal, ad blocking, scheduled scans, multi-device protection, and more that stops malicious downloads in their tracks. Without Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro, I would risk my finances, banking details, personal data, and more getting into the hands of cyber criminals. Thanks again to Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro for sponsoring today's extravaganza. And do yourself a favor and sign up for a free 7-day free trial, of Virtual Shield Antivirus Pro during their early Black Friday sale happening now, and get up to 75% off. Yes, you heard that. Up to 75% off. Only at virtualshield.com/Lionel. Once again, that's virtualshield.com/Lionel.
A couple of things too, my friends. You have to ask yourself this question: where are you getting your information? This is the most important. Is where are you getting this from? See, I'm getting to me, news is like a direction. It's like, go this way. Doesn't mean I don't go this way. You're not going to believe, with a few more years of Joe Rogan and others, and Bobby Kennedy, the stuff that was considered really lock and key conspiracy stuff, which is the wrong term, and I've said this a million times, is going to be so commonplace. you are going to see, and this is the most important, this is the one goal. If you can do this, I don't care about anything else. I want, and this is not legislation, this is a societal change. I want the notion of conspiracy theory precluding your ability to speak completely eliminated from our vocabulary. I want them to say, no, we want to talk about conspiracy theories. You want them. You want them to be true. We were so trained to be told specifically that if it comes up, you have to stop this. They would actually say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. And that was it. It would stop our speech. And there are some absolute sacred cows. This event on the 11th day of the 9th month, 21 years ago, is where you need to start, and you will have your mind blown by what actually happened and what you were told that happened. You can't believe it. It is the tutorial. You start with that. It is the best. Psychologists, psychiatrists, sociologists, information specialists will marvel at what you believe. How many times have I told you? How do you know what you know? About ontology and the idea of where information goes. How do you know what you know? You don't believe, you probably wouldn't believe how much you repeat in terms of, I guess, maybe, I don't know what the word is, some kind of almost a rote type of thing where you just say things repeatedly. Does that make any sense? You just repeat it. I talked to a friend of mine recently, very smart guy. And we were happened to be talking about Israel and Gaza and Palestine and the whole bit. And he repeated every trope, every tropism, every meme, memetics after memetics of the narrative without batting an eye. And I said, you have not studied this in the least. He goes, yes, I have. I said, oh, I see. Studying, you means you've been listening to this. Okay. I said, imagine if you went to medical school and I gave you a textbook from 1800. Now that's called medical school, and that's a textbook, and this is a university professor, and he's going to be teaching you from this book from the 1800s. That's not the best. Some of it's true, some of it's still, I'm sure, good. Where do you get your information? How do you know what you know? How do you know? We're still trying to figure out the Vietnam War. Can you ever answer the Vietnam War? What was the Vietnam War even about? We still can't answer it. How did that happen? How did this lefty, liberal Lyndon Johnson, who loved Black people and wanted to bring electricity to the hill country of Texas and just this great society, how could this be the most bloodthirsty warmonger in the history of our nation? How does this happen? How? This is the question of questions. Do you know, talking about the 11th day of the 9th month, how many people will repeat the narrative of this and this and then this and this and the third one, remember that one, and then this and then 3 precision shots and another one that was mysterious. And you There is not. I mean, nobody has read anything. They've just, that's it. That's all I know. That's it. Just this collective sort of, I think that's what happened. On the event that nobody will ever forget. On the event that defined us. On the event that was the worst day in our history. On the event, do you have any idea? This is the greatest experiment of them all. How did they do this? They don't know anything. There's no curiosity, nothing. How does this work? I don't know. Because you were told, don't go there. Don't go there. You're crazy. Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't be one of those people. That's nutty. That's crazy. Don't do that. When it comes to illness or sickness or contagion, whatever, don't go there. Don't say that. Don't say that. And they turned us on each other. It wasn't the thought police, it was the thought vigilantes, the citizens who came along and they said, hey, don't do that. Hey, that's, whatever it is. Be careful. Don't go there. This is the part which is the most important. This is it. How do you know what you know? How do they fall? How do they fail up? Interesting. This is the part, this is the most important thing. Well, thank you, Bill. This is what I want you to grasp. What is the one issue? If I said, okay, listen to me. I'm going to give you one chance for this new curriculum I've got. It's going to be a show we're going to make everybody watch. What's the most important issue to blow their mind as to how they've been lied to? The number one, in your opinion, where you'll say, I know exactly. Make sure you talk about this. Is it the liberty? Everybody loves the liberty. Is it the 11th day of the 9th month? Is it Vietnam? Is it Watergate? Is it any of these CIA operations? What is the one event? Is it the whole notion of how Big Pharma worked? Remember, Big Agra, they got a complete. We haven't talked about GMOs or food or seeds or anything. We just forgot about that. What would be the thing? What would be the Rona? The Rona. That was the most. You have to step back. Waco, Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma City. Interesting. Now remember, you've got to be able to say, here's the truth, not here's what happened. You've got to be able to say, not here's what happened. I can show you the truth regarding the 11th day. You just can't say, okay, Oklahoma City, what is that? Do you have the absolute truth on that? Well, we have some reasons. Do you have the McVeigh stories, and do you have the idiosyncrasies of that? The inconsistencies of that? Yeah, that might be good. But you're not going to get there's nobody who's come forward and said, I did it. Here's what happened. Here's the truth. You just have evidence of things that don't make any sense. They're still arguing Kennedy. You talk about the moon. You talk about Iran-Contra. Iran-Contra, by the way, is very, very straightforward. Very, 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 very important. And Sean says the moon landing. You do know that that's important. Show the idiosyncrasies. Show the. By the way, Northwoods, Mrs. Hayes, Northwoods is interesting. Operation Northwoods, Gulf of Tonkin. That was it. By the way, remember how the Gulf of Tonkin was exposed through an NSA an NSA document. That's what was interesting with that. See, this is the stuff that we live for. This is the most. And you see, the way you're acting is what they would consider to be lunacy, psyop. Do you not believe anything? Oh, we believe stuff. Absolutely. But the stuff we believe is oftentimes contrary to what you believe. And we're not going to change what we believe in order to comport or to comply with your way of thinking. That's it. My dear friends, you have a great and a glorious day. Thank you so much for all our friends. Thank you to Pilgrim and Crypto and Aaron King, a new member, Paul Rodriguez and Victoria Bentley. Thank you so much. Ventilation Friday tonight with Mrs. L. I'm going to be on the Mark Simone show at 10:40 today. If you were so inclined, I would listen if I were you. Have a great and a glorious day. Remember, make sure you are subscribed to Lionel Nation. And also make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. One went out this morning about the complete and total decline of the American news system. In any event, my dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. And comment as you see fit, or what I normally say, I forgot. The monkey's dead. They destroyed by that one day. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. That.